I will send some dudes over to your house. I have an alibi. Oh, yeah, he goes there. He goes there. So that was the day that I made a conscious decision that I will no longer allow my son to abuse me and disrespect me in any way. And I don't lose any sleep about it either. He told me, like I discussed with you before, that the only reason why I was at the hospital with him every single day was to watch him die. So I could, no, to pray that he dies. So I could collect an insurance check for him. And he didn't even realize that I was behind the scenes trying to make sure that when he came out of a coma and when he healed, he didn't have to go to jail. And that was by me not beating the hell out of one of his little disrespectful girlfriends who showed her ass in ICU. When at that very moment, when I had to have my gun on me to make sure that I was protected, I was like, yeah, this is the line. He had already crossed him. So that funeral thing, I don't like when people play that, and I don't like people because my thing is if we're not good in life, we're not good in death either. So what difference does
Whew.
it matter?
Oh, that's a bar. Oh,
What
oh
difference
man.
does it matter? I don't play those games, and I don't subscribe to what our Black community tries to impose on us. If I don't like you in life, I don't like you in death. So what difference does it make with me showing up at your funeral?
What's up, everybody? My name is Mel, and welcome to Life Coaching by Mel. Here at Life Coaching by Mel, we speak truth regarding the nuclear family. And if you're new to the channel, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you get each and every one of my videos. Hit that like button for me. Hit me in that comment section. Today is going to be an invigorating conversation that I know you want to contribute to. And be sure to share this with at least one person. Let's get into today's topic. On today's episode, I have an incredible conversation for you guys. My newfound buddy, Kendall Williams, is in the building. Kendall, you're doing some amazing things on TikTok and other platforms.
Thank,
But I'm going to
thank
allow
you.
you to formally introduce yourself and tell the people where they can find you as well.
Yeah, I am Kendall Gordon Williams. I'm the host of Mom's True Tea podcast and the CEO of Mom's True Tea Foundation. And my podcast platform, in my platform in general, I speak the unfiltered truth about parenthood, not just motherhood. A lot of times I speak from a mom's perspective because I am a mom and I can't really speak from a dad's perspective, but I always try to have an open mind as it relates to any parent and an adult child or teenager or whomever, as long as it's respectful. So again, my platform, I speak on the things that people don't really want to talk about, and it ruffles some feathers, and then it gives some other people some ways to think of things differently. And you and I had a really good conversation from your perspective, and then you heard mine, and here we are. So I stream on all platforms, including YouTube, similar to you, and I can be found on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook under Mums to Tea.
That's incredible. That's incredible. And that's not foreign territory for me as far as ruffling feathers. We do that a lot over here. But so I love it. And I think it's going to be very interesting because we come from different perspectives, but I think we have the
Yeah,
same common goal. So I think that's
yeah,
incredible. I want to start by asking this question, Kendall, if you don't mind.
sure.
One of my least favorite questions I get or rebuttals I receive online is who hurt you?
Mm,
Whenever they hear my perspective or my truth or whatever, I hate that phrase, my bad. When I hear the
hmm.
truth coming from me based on what things I've experienced,
That is your perspective. Mhm.
absolutely, absolutely. But the number one thing they say, who hurt you? And I
Mm,
go to the head, I say, bam, can I go to the head? I try to think about any movement that's been started
mhm,
that wasn't started from hurt. And,
mm.
and I see, like I say, a lot of parallels in our content, just from
Yeah.
different perspectives. So I want to ask, how do you feel about that question, who hurt
Yeah, I've heard that too, amongst other things. And I'm honest, my son.
you?
My son
Mm,
hurt me, and let's go beyond that. I come from a childhood that had trauma as well. I was raised in a two-parent home, but my parents were on and off married again. My father was abusive, so I witnessed a lot of domestic violence in my home. My dad was also addicted to drugs, and he actually died in prison in 2014, and we were estranged. So he hurt me too, but I don't carry it anymore. You know what I'm saying? I don't carry those sense
absolutely.
of abandonment anymore. And then I think because my mother had so much on her shoulders and she was constantly in survival mode, just as a mom, but as a Black woman in the South. And my mom comes from the Jim Crow era and segregation era. She took her anger out, I believe, a lot on me as well. But again, I've never carried that pain to that degree, maybe internally. But yeah, I would say those things are definitely hurtful. And then when you raise a child and then now you're being abused by the child, you've come from being abused as a kid. I was previously married and abused in that relationship. And then now my child is abusing and disrespecting me too. So those are the things that hurt me. And I can speak to those specifically.
Yeah. I think the natural assumption is to say you are currently still hurt because you're speaking truth to the situation,
Oh, yeah,
and that's completely false. And
completely.
I even have family members to this day reaching out and say, "You need to forgive your mama.
Mhm.
You need to let it
Mhm.
go. You hurt. You need to go to counseling." Well, I've done all.
Mhm.
I forgave.
Mhm.
I've gone to counseling, gone to therapy, and it's from
Mhm.
that I now can speak with the clarity that I do. Um,
Yeah. Can
now,
I touch on that real quick when you said forgiveness? Because I think forgiveness is it's forced, right? People try to force forgiveness on you when you may not be ready.
yeah.
And I think that's a very toxic thing to do to try to force someone into forgiveness. If you feel hurt from a person, it's on your timing when you decide to forgive them. And you
Mm,
may never forgive them, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're living in this place of anger and hurt or all of those things. You moved on. I just don't deal with this person. And I think people also think because you don't deal with somebody that you got some beef with them. And that's not
mm.
necessarily the case. You just choose to protect yourself from that person. And it doesn't mean it comes from a place of unforgiveness either.
That's so powerful. That's absolutely powerful. We're gonna get more into rather we should cut off and how to cut off here in a moment. But I want to go to this
Okay.
word that we talked about the other day, and we both
Uh,
agreed that it's so overused.
it's very overused.
Let's talk about narcissism, narcissists.
Uh,
What you said something very powerful on your platform about my generation, millennials and Gen Zs
mhm.
specifically, that overuse is. What is your take on the way it's being used?
A to nauseam, number one, and I don't think half the time I don't think people even understand the true definition of what narcissism means or the true characteristics. It's a term that they heard over and over on social media, posts and clips and content, and then they may go to a therapist, and that therapist may say the same thing as well. But I always say narcissism, just because those people have characteristics that are not becoming to you, that doesn't necessarily mean they're narcissists by a clinical terminology. And none of us are psychologists, so we're not here to actually diagnose that person from a clinical perspective because there's different stages and different levels of narcissism. I believe people are selfish. I believe people are self-centered. I believe people only have their best interests at heart. I believe people are manipulators and liars, and there's so many characteristics don't necessarily fit into narcissism, but the word has been constantly regurgitated
Yeah,
so much over the last couple years, especially in the therapy culture, that it, it has no true meaning behind it just because your parent showed up in a way that you didn't like.
absolutely. Definitely taking the power out of the actual definition. And
Absolutely.
let's go to this part here. So
Okay.
we from two diametrically opposed situations because especially
Hmm.
in our culture, we're both black. I'm black.
Yeah.
I know you black. I can see it. No, I'm just
Black and black, black, black.
kidding. So we come from the
Power to
black.
the people, black. Mhm.
So we come from the black community through and through.
Yeah.
We know this dynamic of mother and son is
Ooh.
it's like tethered more than anything in history.
Hmm.
So for both of us to have this estranged relationship, you with your son, me with my mother, what do you think this type of dynamic says to our community?
First of all, it's weird to me that I'm seeing so much of this. And to be honest, Mel, I a lot of my followers are now white women, which is crazy. And I'm like, damn, I thought it was just us.
Right.
And no, it's not. So I don't even think it's about that anymore. I find it odd that it's in our community because we typically hold our parents to such a high standard, good, bad, or indifferent. Yes,
Yeah.
they have traumatized the hell out of us, especially me. I got beat with extension cords,
Oof.
I got beat with switches. And I wasn't a bad kid. Like, I was so loving and caring and wanted to take care and nurture my mother, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like it could be twofold with the sons. I feel like some of them are, and I'm not taking away from your experience
No
that you
doubt.
shared with me, but I think some sons are so angry with the fathers that are not there that they tend
Mm,
to take it out on the moms. And I just made a post on my TikTok and Instagram, and I said, we need to stop not abandoning, but stop abusing and disrespecting the parent that stayed
mm.
because you're angry with the one that left. And a lot of times I feel like our boys are angry because their fathers have left, or you removed yourself from a certain dynamic and they blame you. And if the father is on the other end and they're not fostering a positive relationship with the mom, or having conversations with the son as well, saying, hey, me and your mom didn't work out because of XYZ. She's not to blame. I'm not to blame. We went in two different directions, or whatever the scenario is. But because a lot of men don't have those conversations when they do talk to their sons, if they're even present at all, it becomes this anger. And of course, your anger is going to be towards the person that's there for you.
That is great stuff. That is
Plus,
great
they
stuff.
know we're not going to go nowhere. They know they can abuse us, they can disrespect us, and we still going to love them because we're a mom. Most of us, yes, for sure. So
Right.
I think that has a lot to do with it.
Absolutely. I definitely agree. And you're right. It's not just specific to the black community. I don't want to assume that or say that,
Yeah.
but I do want to say that my platform specifically, I am trying to find solutions for the black community.
Yeah.
I speak truth regarding the nuclear family. So
Absolutely.
when I ask this, I want to ask, and with that in mind, I want to ask this: do you agree with me? Just yes or no, or you can elaborate if you want, that the black
Mhm.
community is a matriarchy.
Yes.
Okay. Now,
Hmm.
with that in mind, and everything you said, I want to ask this. We have a dynamic of, yes, 80% of children, over 80% of children in the black community are born out of wedlock. But then you
Hmm.
have some households, I would say like mine, that the one I grew up in, that the father is there, but he's just not a vocal leader or is not.
There.
So speak to that a little bit. Speak to that anger, like you said, it comes towards the mother when she has to step up in that type of dynamic.
Yeah, you raise a good point. When there is a father that's physically present, but he's not emotionally, spiritually, or mentally there for their child, you might as well not even be in the home.
Mm,
Because again, that's going to be still that pressure and that unwavering need, it's going to be towards the mom all the time, right?
yeah.
And I think you raise a good point there, even in some two-parent homes, because I think people always look at single parent homes and they definitely want to blame the single mom for the outcome or the consequences or whatever from their child. And I think that's very unfair because it takes two people to have a child. And there's a shared responsibility between the father and the mother. It just so happens that not all the time, that some men decide they don't want to do it anymore. Or, and women do too. There are women that have doing that too, but we also know it's more prevalent that men depart or abandon their families more than women do.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So I want to ask this. I want to transition a little bit. How comfortable are you with
Got a
discussing?
cold.
You got to go. Oh, it's all over.
Sorry.
It's all good.
Sorry, y'all. I'm so annoyed. Sorry.
How comfortable are you going into what happened between you and your son?
I'm very comfortable. Listen, I'm an open book. What you see on
Okay, good.
social media is who I am off social media. Social media is not a real place for me at 51 years old. Social media is utilized for me to build a platform and to build a community for people that don't want to share the truth like I do. So I have
Mm,
no problem whatsoever. I don't know where to start, but because it's been 20 years that I've been dealing with his behavior. So
no doubt.
I'll give you the cliff notes. His father and I were married for 10 years. We had a very toxic and tumultuous relationship. I made the conscious decision that I did not want to raise my sons in that any longer, although I tried because I wanted that nuclear family no matter how toxic it was. I wanted that because I came from a broken home and I didn't want my children to experience the same thing. I got a divorce, and again, his father did not try to navigate that in the way that I did. I wanted to be very amicable. I tried to extend him so much grace. I did not put him on child support. All of those things to try to have a good foundation because I wanted the focus to be on my son, who is the younger son that I'm estranged from. I have two adult children, 29 and 34. Um, and his dad would rile him up. So I started dealing with behavior issues very early on. My now husband and I, who we've been married for 20 years, well, 17 years now, we got together after my divorce, and my son put it in his mind that I had cheated on his dad with my now husband. And he still carried that on, and he's 29 years old. And we have sat down, given him the timeline, shown him divorce papers, like something that I don't feel like I necessarily had to do, but because I'm an open book and I'm fine with being accountable. I wanted to try to let my son know that that was not the truth. And of course, because his dad wasn't on his side saying, hey, that's not true. Your mom and I weren't together. He perpetuated the
Mm.
narrative. And it went from that to him. He hates me. He hates my husband. Um, the amount of disrespect that we have dealt with from him, we dealt with him stealing from us, we dealt with him bringing people into our home that were unsavory and unsafe.
Right.
So that let me know he didn't care about me to bring strangers in my home of character, of people that I would never associate myself with. But he's always wanted to be on the street side when he was born and raised in the suburbs. Um, so he's always wanted to be that tough kid, and he's born and raised in the suburbs. Okay, Florida and Atlanta suburbs.
Right.
But it has evolved. There's so much. I don't even think I can unpack it all. But I will tell you the most recent reason why he and I are completely estranged by my choice, and I need people to be clear about that, is because he was in an accident back in 2022. He suffered some extreme loss, and he has some disabilities as a result of it. I was by his side almost every day. In addition to when he went that, I was diagnosed with cancer myself in
Mm.
2022. So I went through all of these different things, while he was going through, and still trying to be there for him every day as well as he recovered. And um I thought that he would come out of that situation being a different person. And when I say different, in a more humble, respectful, just grateful for life, not even for me per se. And he came out worse than he went in before. Anytime you tell my son something that he does not want to hear, he becomes very belligerent, very belittling. He's called me a whore. He said, F you, bitch. He's said nasty things about my husband, my son. He's been disrespectful to his grandparents when they won't give him what he wants, or he feels like they're taking my side because they don't indulge or engage. He told me, like I discussed with you before, that the only reason why I was at the hospital with him every single day was to watch him die, so I could no to pray that he dies, so I could collect an insurance check for him.
Wow.
Then he doesn't even know the battle that I was facing while he was in the hospital, because he was in legal trouble, which he's been in quite some time, for years. And he didn't even realize that I was behind the scenes trying to make sure that when he came out of a coma and when he healed, he didn't have to go to jail. And that was by me not beating the hell out of one of his little disrespectful girlfriends who showed her ass in ICU
Wow.
one day when I arrived to come and see my son. And she had been up in there telling him, oh, his mom hasn't been to see him. She had no idea what was going on. But she was in there telling him I didn't come to see him. We didn't have a good relationship. And these are all the things that he's told her, because he manipulates women to get what he wants. And that's how he plays on them,
Mm.
especially if they have damaged relationships with their family.
Wow.
So those are just the cliff notes. I could go further, but
Yeah.
that's just what it is. And I recorded her being disrespectful to me in ICU instead of putting my hands on her
Mhm.
so that I could send it to his attorney to get him off charges that she had falsely pressed against him. And he had no regard for it. He didn't even care. He could care less, was still engaging with her. And then the most recent thing was in 2023, he and his girlfriend came over to pick up some mail. She may have spoken at the door when she came in the door, but I was sitting much further down the foyer in a family room. She came in. We were all sitting in the family room, but she wasn't. So I didn't even realize she was there. She was sitting in the kitchen. He said, "Hey, why don't you come over here?" She was like, "No, I don't want to." And I specifically said, "Oh, I didn't know she was here because I didn't hear her say anything." Which she still didn't say anything. So I told her that when you come into someone's home, you may want to make sure you speak. Otherwise, it comes across as you're being rude. She didn't like it. And my son called me the next day and cursed me out. "You evil bitch. Don't you ever fucking call my girlfriend and tell her no shit like that. I will come and blow up your house. I will send some dudes over to your house. I have an alibi." Oh, yeah, he goes there. He goes there. So that was the day that I made a conscious decision that I will no longer allow my son to abuse me and disrespect me in any way, and I don't lose any sleep about it either.
I love it. I love it. And thank you so much for sharing that. Now,
Yeah,
I want to ask this just to go back just a little bit because you've seen this human, this young man, for his entire life. Was
yeah.
there anything or what's something from the past, from his childhood, maybe that could have maybe predicted, other than the the fake thuggery he was trying to do, that maybe
Right.
could have predicted him being at this point in his life?
I never saw this coming. I never saw this coming. I didn't see a change in his behavior until his father and I were getting a divorce and getting separated. That's when I started to see the turn. Because his dad would call him, rile him up in the morning. Then my older son, and I would have to deal with his behavior throughout the day or the schools, to the point where I would unplug the phone because I realized every time he calls him, it's a bad day. So
Hmm.
let me unplug the phone. That way he can't call him in the morning, get him all riled up with whatever he says to him on the phone, and see how that changes. And I notice a significant change. And I'm like, oh, it's him. It's him. It's whatever he's saying to him in the morning that's riling him up and gets him in this space. And I started to unplug the phone in the morning. You can talk to him when he comes home. I do it after that, but not during my day while I'm at work. So no, to answer your question specifically, no, I never saw my son specifically acting in this manner initially. He was a sweet kid.
Yeah, and that's incredible to think about. First off, incredible to think about how long ago this must have been. Because you said unplug the phone, but
I know.
just
I
joking.
know. Don't judge me. I told you I was Gen X. Didn't I tell you? Did we start with that?
Yes, we did. But let me say this: it's just like you and your ex-husband. My parents had a very tumultuous relationship. I mean, I've seen everything. Some of the
Yeah.
most horrific, abusive, and domestic violence situations I've seen.
Yeah.
So they finally got divorced after 30 some odd years. And that definitely created a divide in our family. We initially took my mom's side and until we spoke to my dad and got the truth. But
Mhm.
and I will say, if we had to weigh or put a percentage on who took the brunt of most of the violence or who took the brunt of most of the trauma during their
Yeah.
relationship, it would be my dad. Like he was the victim, and more often
Mm.
than not. But
Yeah, that's
but say,
possible.
but saying all that, the biggest advocate for me and my mom to heal our relationship is my dad. No matter,
Mm.
he knows her better than anyone, knows her personality, know how much chaos she causes to pretty much anyone she knows,
Yeah.
but yet he's pushing me to heal that relationship. So I want to ask,
Really?
when you say, how your ex-husband was the biggest proponent for your son to have that behavior,
Mhm.
what has he said to try to make
Nothing.
that?
Nothing. My husband called him when we started really having a lot of issues with him, getting into legal trouble and just being disrespectful and honoring and stealing and all this stuff. My husband called his dad and he said, "Hey man, your son needs you. Like, I'm here, but he needs you. If you need to take a trip to Atlanta, because again, we moved from Florida. If you need to take a trip here, I suggest that you do that because your son needs you, and his mom is doing the best that she possibly can. But he needs you." And my husband, my ex told him, "That's y'all's problem, not mine." Had he navigated the relationship in the way that I was trying to when we got separated and got divorced, I think there would be a huge difference in my son's behavior, how he perceives everything, and how he navigates his relationship with me.
That's a high probability for sure. Now,
Hmm.
so you go through this chaos, you finally see the last straw of
Yeah.
the issue. And honestly speaking, whenever a woman gets involved that becomes, his new mom, so to speak, or just he has a means to replace that type of relationship, it
Hmm.
becomes so cloudy, and you willing to
Hmm.
defend her to the end of the earth, but you disregard your mom or how you may be treating things of that nature. So I've seen that dynamic
Hmm.
play out. But
Hmm.
how did you or what was the process that you went into to realizing, yeah, I need to cut him off, but how do I go
Hmm.
about that?
Like I said, that last incident when he took it too far and he started to, because it's not the first time he's threatened me or my home or my husband. His go-to is always to threaten my husband because he knows that'll get to me. So that's always his go-to. His attacks are always majority towards him, in trying to destroy maybe a business that I own, or he thinks he can, but he has no power. And that's another reason why he gets very, very infuriated with me. But what made me make that final decision is, like I said, it went too far to the point where you were coming into my development and parked on the cul-de-sac in a very menacing and threatening way after you had made threats and people had told you specifically, "Don't go to your mom's house, don't go near your mom's house." And he was like, "No, mama," he rah rah, and I keep telling him, real gangsters move in silence, number one. And I am the thug. And I've tried to. Like, again, I know I keep saying I'm Gen X, baby. We're the last generation that had hand to hand combat. I want all the smoke. I don't ask for it, but I do match energy.
Right.
So when I got to the point where I felt so threatened that I would get my weapon to let him know that I was not the one to play with anymore, that's when I knew it had gone way too far.
Mm,
It had gone way too far. It had gone way too far with the fact that you felt comfortable enough to come in my development, my nice suburban development, and park on my cul-de-sac. That was a threat to myself and to my husband, because we don't know what your intentions are. We go to the mailbox or we leave, open the door, we don't. And you're parked on my cul-de-sac. And then when you come outside to the mailbox, you flash your lights and come flying up the street from the cul-de-sac. Yeah, that was it for me. That was it. When at that very moment, when I had to have my gun on me to make sure that I was protected, I was like, yeah, this is the line. He had already crossed them far too many times. And I keep the text messages and I repeat voice recorded audio for those times when I'm like, I miss my son. These are my reminders.
mm,
These are my reminders that this is who this person is, or he'll finally get in contact with me some way. And we talk, or he talks, but because he doesn't hear what he wants to hear, he goes right back to that same person.
mm,
And then I'm like, oh, there you go. I don't know this person who's calling me saying they're sorry. And then when I'm saying, what are you sorry for? Because I believe apologies come with change behavior. Because people can apologize all the time, but if your behavior is consistently the same, I can't trust that this is going to be different. And when he doesn't get that, the mom manipulation or the, okay, son, let's move forward, he goes right back to that person. And then the belittling starts again, the insults start again. all those nasty things and the threats start again. Like all of it starts again.
Wow. And for anyone out there saying, "Hey, that's your son. He wouldn't do anything like that. He probably just playing around or trying to scare you," I think you should watch the Menendez twins documentary, or just to see what a child is capable of doing. Because
No, I could take it more personally. I have a personal friend that was stabbed to death by her son as she
wow,
made coffee, a family friend, as she was making coffee to head to work in the morning. And she had become so afraid of her son that she was putting padlock doors on her bedroom door.
oh
She
my
became
god,
a prisoner in her own home. And she got up one morning to fix coffee, thinking that he was not there. And he stabbed his mother to death. So I don't take it lightly. So we don't even have to go back far as the Menendez brother. That's another topic that I've had conversations about because people don't discuss parental abuse.
mm.
The focus is always on the child abuse. Those are the people that like to tussle in my comments, and I'm like, I'm not negating that there are horrible parents. I'm not negating that at all. But I know the parent that I've been. I know the parent that I've shown up, and I know these parents that are also suffering and that have these conversations with me. And I know this woman was a hardworking woman who did everything she could for her child. He was the only child that she had, and to get to the point where you stab your mother to death and she becomes afraid in her own home. So no, I don't take it lightly at all.
Oh man, so sorry to hear
I
that.
also don't I also don't care what people say when it comes to it either.
I hear you on that, and that actually leads me to my next question because and speak, it's like death and what people have to say, because a lot of
Yeah.
times the rebuttal I get, or just the challenge I get from people who would disagree with my relationship with my mother, is
Hmm.
you don't want to be at her funeral, and that people, we can die anytime. You want to
You
heal this.
can too.
And and bringing it back to the Black community, why do we have this pressure regarding death? I always
Because
have.
that's been ingrained in our brains from slavery. It's
Mm,
encoded in our DNA to always be the bigger person, to forgive, to forget, to move on, and no longer like accountability. That's another word that drives me crazy in this generation. Because what if you don't get somebody to be accountable? How do you move forward? What are we going to stay stuck in? You may never get accountability from your mom. I may never get it from my son, but am I going to stay stuck in that? And I
mm,
think it's been so ingrained in us to just forgive and forget everything. And we pass it down to every generation within our family. Listen, my dad and I were estranged. My dad died in prison, like I said, in 2014. Guess who they called? Guess who paid to bury him and memorialize him? His daughter, who had not seen him in 15, 16, 20 plus years. I did that because I honored him for the man that I wanted him to be,
mm.
not for who he was. I wrote my dad a letter. I read that letter, trusting that he heard it in spirit before he crossed over, and I was done.
Mm,
I didn't have any regret, like, oh my God, I wish that I would have reached out to my dad. I knew that if I had any contact with my dad during that time, it was going to be transactional
mm.
because that's always been our relationship. It's been transactional. My last time seeing him, he asked me for my last $20 so he can get high. And he didn't care that I had to get back home with kids. He just
Wow.
wanted to get high. So that funeral thing, I don't like when people play that. And I don't like people because my thing is if we're not good in life, we're not good in death either. So what difference does
Whew.
it matter?
Oh, that's a bar. Oh,
What
oh man.
difference does it matter? I don't play those games, and I don't subscribe to what our Black community tries to impose on us. If I don't like you in life, I don't like you in death. So what difference does it make with me showing up at your funeral? And I'm not gonna be screaming and hollering because
And I
I ain't gonna
always
even be there.
right. I don't know if you ever seen that scene from Fresh Prince of Bel Air when what's his name, Sherman Hemsley was on there, and he was a horrible like person to a lot of people, and
Hmm.
Will accidentally killed him. Well, like something happened where Will accidentally killed him. So he went to the
Yeah,
funeral, and like everybody at the funeral talking cash shit about Sherman
yeah.
Hemsley, and then Will got up and was like, "Hey man, who are y'all to be talking? Why y'all talking about this man? This man is dead." And somebody stood up, "Man, who are you?"
Okay.
I'm the man who killed him. They start clapping.
They start clapping. Right. Like yeah, I don't feel like somebody imposing it on you like, oh man, you want to get it right. Hell, you could die. She didn't try to get it right with you. I feel like there's an obligation, right? I feel like there's an obligation on both parts at
Yeah,
some point.
absolutely.
I do. And I really, really do. And I feel like just based on our conversation before this, that you were like, yeah, I was trying to give my mom the benefit of the doubt. You know what I'm saying? But she
Hmm.
showed you who she was again. And then it put you back to that same place that you were before. So I don't foster that. Listen, if you have a narcissistic parent or a parent that has characteristics that are not becoming or that are not the definition of what you feel like a parent should be, even in our imperfection and our flaws, I do believe there are, like I said, there are some parents that are very toxic,
Hmm.
very, and they do have some narcissistic traits, but I don't think that necessarily makes them narcissistic.
I hear you on that. Let's stop using that. So we so loosely in
Yeah,
2025.
let's lose something else. Just say they're a horrible person.
They get on
Shit.
my nerve. When we stop saying they get on my
Yeah.
nerves? No.
Yeah, let's stop saying that. Let's stop saying triggering. Like, no, they pissed me off. They didn't trigger you. They pissed you off.
Right, right.
Like let's stop using these terms that's being regurgitated over and over and over on social media, and we don't even know what they are. And again, just because your parent doesn't show up in the way that you want them to, or they don't agree to you, and then let's talk about how I think therapy is turning a lot of people against each other. They're changing the family dynamic a lot, and
Mm,
hell, a lot of the therapists are messed up themselves.
talk about it.
So how can they have a subjective opinion? And again, I'm not opposed to therapy. So I don't want nobody coming in my comments talking that shit because I'm not opposed to it. However, I'm an advocate for you utilizing therapy in the right way for your own healing, not to
Absolutely.
project it on your parent, your wife, your spouse, your kids, or anything. I just think that you should get the tools for yourself that you need in order to move forward with your healing and not try to force somebody because we can't. We have no control over them.
Absolutely. And I'm not a therapist. I am a life coach, and I don't speak bad against therapists as well. But I want to say, like, when it comes to life coaching, the biggest element that I love about it is removing you from victimhood. Like, it literally
Hmm.
is showing you that and helping you navigate for yourself how to no longer be a victim, and how to
Absolutely.
get the best results for yourself. So this is
Yeah.
incredible. It's been an incredible conversation. I just want to give you the floor for a moment. Just anything you want to share that's on your heart to the audience, whether they are the child or the parent. What is
Yeah.
the number one message on your mind at the moment?
I just think that we control our own narrative, right? Whether it's a parent or a child. You know, your child has these perceptions, and some of the shit is made up, and some of it is true. Some of it is true. Like if my sons came to me and say, "My mom don't play. My mom gonna get back with you if you try," they would be completely accurate. However, they could never say that I did not show up for them, that I did not support all their dreams, their aspirations, even the ones that failed or they didn't follow through with. Because I think a lot of times too, what I'm seeing is a lot of these adult children, millennials, Gen Z, whatever, they are failing and they want to blame their parents for their failure.
Mm,
And you can't do that. You have to focus on that because once you leave the home and once you're 18 or whatever, and you decide to be out on your own and navigate this life of your own, you are responsible for your own journey. But I think for parents also, we also have to stop trying to control the narrative or the consequences that come with their journey. Because a lot of times we do that. And from different places, we want to control it because we want to look like the superhero. We want to control it because some of us are codependent as hell because of our own childhood trauma. And that's a whole nother conversation. And I think we have to let that go. But what I do advocate for is not allowing anyone to disrespect you, whether it be a parent or a child. But we also have to define that word too, because I think some people think their parents are disrespectful because they don't do something or they say something they don't like. These new generation, I ain't trying to be funny, but y'all different. Y'all different. Some of y'all want to be oppressed, and I'm not talking about you. Some of y'all want to be
right.
oppressed so bad, and that's just not the case, especially in comparison to what some of us went through. And again, I'm not negating that people have had some horrible childhoods and they have experienced some horrible, abusive, disgusting parents. I never negate that. But I just think sometimes we also need to give people grace. We need to give people grace. And then if you don't want to deal with them, just don't deal with them.
And live with it.
And stand on that.
Stand on it. I
Stand on
love,
that business.
yes, indeed. One of my favorite scriptures, and I'm not trying to project my Christianity on anyone, but one of my favorite
Fine.
scriptures is when they came to him saying, "Hey, you came for peace," and he said, "Look,
Yeah.
don't assume I came for peace, but I
Okay.
came with a sword." He started
Mm-hmm.
listing out all the relationships that you should be willing
Mm-hmm.
to let go of in order
Mm-hmm.
to uphold his truth. And I think
Mm-hmm.
he started listening parents to child, uh,
Mm-hmm.
literally different relationships. And I think that we take that scripture out in our community for some
Yeah.
reason. Like we think that
Yeah.
no matter what somebody does, we should
Mm-hmm.
we should maintain that relationship.
I
And
don't agree with that.
last thing I want to say here, just in defense of Gen Zs and millennials. Whenever you want to talk about us, just remember who raised us. Remember who raised us.
The best generation.
I feel you, Kendra. Kendra, it's been a joy and pleasure having you on. You're very fun to talk to.
Likewise.
I look forward to doing it
Likewise.
again.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think this was great. I hope that we've helped somebody hearing it from two different perspectives. You being a child at the experience of a parent that has narcissistic characteristics, and me being a mom who's estranged from a child because of their narcissistic characteristics. So I've enjoyed it. Thank you very much. Hey, if this app goes away, they need to follow us on Instagram.
Yes.
And hopefully we'll do this again.
Yes, indeed. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. Thank you so much.
Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Mel. Thank you for joining my channel. Thank you for checking things out here. Oftentimes, we go on people's pages and are like, man, what is going on here? What is the purpose of this channel? So let me be clear. The purpose of this channel is to speak truth regarding the nuclear family. And when I say truth, I'm not saying my truth, not your truth, but the Lord's truth. All about the word, all about the ways and the will of God. What does he have to say about the nuclear family? And I believe the generations of today, whether it be Gen X, millennials, Gen Z, Gen Y, whatever the case may be, I believe now we have a very toxic relationship regarding marriage, regarding family, regarding having children. We're in a toxic dynamic as we speak. And honestly speaking, a lot of the answers that we're looking for in our community, a lot of the cures and a lot of the answers will come from a proper, fulfilled family home. If you go down the line of everyone's individual trauma, there you will find some negligence or some type of issue that they had with their parents. So here on this channel, we address those things head on. We don't place fear in those issues and avoid the topic. We do what Jesus did. And when he said, don't assume that I came for peace, but I came with a sword. I came to turn family members against family members if it means you following me. If you have to cut them off, if you have to address them and have arguments for you to follow me, so be it. And I think at this point in our society, we're at the so be it stage. So here at Life Coaching by Mel, I'm all about bringing healing to that. And the number one way to do that is have honest conversations. So if that's something you like, that's something you're into, that's something you really want to be a part of, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Be sure to comment. Let me know what you think about everything. I do my best to respond as often as I can. I want to hear from you guys. This is not about me. It's about healing our nation, healing our states, healing our cities, healing our community, healing our homes. Love you guys. Take care.
Let's go.